Alright, figured I should make this video because I'm into everyone's favorite job. Got a big trip coming up, so I decided to change the fuel pump on my own terms instead of on the road. Only 2 hours away from the closest shop. They're, 2 weeks booked up. Paying retail for the pump and whatnot. Yeah, it can get pretty expensive, so I decided this was something I wanted to tackle on my own terms when I can gauge the fuel level how I'd like it, which is definitely ideally as empty as you can get it. When the light comes on, there's still quite a bit of fuel in there, and it's heavy. So I don't know. It's you definitely want to have two people at times because these lines coming off, they're really short coming from the body. I'll jump underneath and show you. And specifically the far right line. So let me get proper settings here. It's the bottom line there, so on the left for you goes over to the right, and you've got to pinch those little tabs that everyone shows you, but this line doesn't have a lot of twist to it, so in order to get your fingers on those, or even pliers or whatever, you've got to basically have the tank up in its position with your hand just barely on them. This line, super easy to come off, just did it by feel. The middle line that's still on the tank, it takes a bit of finagling, but it comes off decently easy. But this one is going to be the problem line because the front of the vehicle is behind me here, so you've got to dip the front of the tank down, which kicks the back up because your jack's in the middle. Get your hand up there, pinch those tabs, pull back. And I believe that one is the one that's under pressure as well because there was quite a bit of fuel that came out when I did eventually get it unhooked, but that's definitely a good tip. One of four tank strap bolts snapped off on me, so that's not good. That's not good at all. I've got to come up with something. Drill and tap, drill and extract, whatever. The other ones, this one actually was pretty bad. This one, I think it's been out before. I think what happened is the fuel pump failed and someone just bought a junkyard tank and put the whole thing in, because this one here was definitely cross-threaded. Don't look at my nasty underbody here. This hasn't seen the light of day in a long time. Maybe, oh, I don't like how that's right against that. Yeah, this thing's gonna get lines all around eventually, brake lines that is. I gotta do a bunch of cleaning up under here, but anyways. That's not what this video is about. Ooh. Yeah, maybe fuel lines too by the looks of things. Those don't look factory. Like, come on, is that GM's Benz? I don't know. Maybe it's had them. There's new fuel filter proof of that. Did that just because. Other tips here. So once I got it out, fuel lines disconnected. This far right one here was the pain in the ass one. This part of the fuel pump would not make it past the lip. I tried every angle I could do. I basically ended up having to cut pieces out with pliers, being real careful not to get any pieces in the tank. Basically cut relief cuts, basically wiggle it to a certain point, get half of it out, and then actually I used my little pry bar to work it around, and eventually did get it out. But yeah, I've never seen that happen to anyone else. I've never had it happen to me on a fuel sending unit. I don't know what that was about, but anyways. So yeah, this is the line that gives you the trouble. This one, you've got lots of room to get in here and pinch, right? Because these little these little tabs are 90 degree from each, or 180 degree from each other, and when the line's sitting how it should, it's like that. And then imagine the tank's in the way, you can't get your finger under there. It's impossible. Well, it's not impossible because I got her done, but anyways, it's hard. So this one comes off easy, center one comes off easy, this one here's the pain. Yeah, so that's actually the center line right there. That goes like that, but it's a very thin ring, and yeah, be careful. I'd buy a new one for sure. If I had more time, I would definitely get a new one, because that's not good. Well, I've got my light on here. I'll show you inside my tank. Nice and clean. I wanted to make sure I got basically every little last bit of debris out, like even, you know, just speckles, just for peace of mind. So that's looking good in there. What other tips can I give? Oh yeah, these instructions, man, I don't know. So if we look at my harness here, we've got, let's go by the small wires here. Purple with white line, you know, the big ground, and then a black with a white line. And right now in the clamp I've got the gray. So you heard those two small wires, purple with white, black with white. So we're going off the vehicle side here. These are the 4 possible combinations. Black with white's there, but it just says purple, okay. Maybe that, no, that's purple, yeah, okay. No, yeah, because the second one is the tracer, and L is not white, so I don't know, yeah. That's the combination I went with, but basically just, this is the purple and white. Maybe I'm getting a little crazy about it, but you'd think if they were so adamant, you know, with this, that they'd actually have the right, you know, because then they're here, black, large gauge, yeah, black, the ground, clearly, every single combination, yeah, which makes sense, yeah, you'd use the heavy gauge black to the heavy gauge black, that's your ground. This one here, the gray, every single one. Fuel pump power, right? It says it somewhere. Fuel pump power circuit. So then, basically, you know, black is the ground. You've just got those 2 small wires that are in question. And then you got, so that one probably turns on your light, low reference. And then that would be the resistance that it reads on its little potentiometer coming through that wire there, I'm guessing. So basically, yeah, what I'm getting at is you definitely want to match the purple with the purple and white, because that's the only combination that makes sense. And then also, these, you know, these aren't terrible, you know, as far as butt connectors go, these aren't bad, but these, I forget what size they're meant to be marked, but they're just way too big. It leaves, you know, like I'd almost use these pink ones for the larger gauge wire, and then, you know, just use four pink ones, really. Maybe they did that for simplicity, just so that it made more sense to people or whatever. But anyways, that is not an ideal connection. If you have the means, I would solder it and shrink tube, because that was a lot more reliable connection. I've seen those butt connectors in the trade just completely rot out. Get your new tank straps. Mine were in terrible condition. Throwing a coat of Tremclad on those. There's a heat shield. Or not a heat shield, well, it's a heat shield and a drive shaft shield and a bunch of rock shield, every kind of shield. And mine wasn't alive. It's pretty decrepit. It was held up most of the way with mechanics wire on this side. You know, this strap here basically just bent it back and forth once, completely rotted. So, you know, some people say you should have, you know, just cut a hole in the body, this and that, which maybe I still will. I don't know. It's not a bad idea for the next one, but I would, you know, definitely check out your straps, because, you know, if you lose the thing, it goes, you know, scraping along the ground, or you hit something off road and it, you know, jars it loose. I don't know. Wouldn't be good. Watching, no one mentioned this anyways. All the videos I watched, that you can probably pop off. Mine was basically rotting off the frame, so I just gave it a swift yank and it popped off. The if you're planning on, oh, okay, I'll just siphon the fuel out, well, you're gonna have to get by that. It's like a you know, one-way check anti-siphon valve. So don't be getting any ideas that you're just gonna stick a hose down and drain out whatever fuel's in there, because it's actually a pretty good setup, which I'm kind of glad to see that GM put that in there, because you could lose a lot of fuel. Someone you know, got a hose in there proper and decided to run you dry. But anyways, so I've also seen videos where people say the gasket isn't the right size, so I cleaned up the old one. It seems to be exactly the right size, the new one. The old one's just slightly larger, a little bit expanded, expansion going on, maybe do the ethanol fuel, which must have been what happened with that sending unit too. That's the only thing I can come up with, really. But yeah, so and that's everything, I think. Solder your connections if you have the means. Level, don't forget to put your float on. It comes separate. I just haven't put it on yet because I'm not ready to pop the unit in yet. Pull your spare out if you like. Gets a little bit more seeing room from back here, kinda. So you can get an arm in there a little bit better too. That helps. Not a fun job, but way better to do it on your own terms. Alright, this video's not gonna have good light, but it's probably well worth it. So, got looking at that line, and yeah, we're doing it. I can't put the fuel tank back in with, you know, that crusty thing behind it. It was completely falling apart in some spots. Let's see if I can get my light in there. But yeah, it was time. It was time. So I've got to turn that into that. This is what we got. Nycop alloy tubing, easy bending, 1/4 by 25 feet. And it came with fittings already on it, which happened to be the right ones. I just tested them out. And this fitting here, the shorty, will work for the rear fitting that goes into the block. I just cut that off and then spun it out. It was quite wallered. The 9/16 was pretty loose, but it did get it. This is the one that goes into the ABS module. It was in pretty good shape, so I'm going to reuse that, like most people say to do online, because apparently it's a special fitting, and I've not had luck looking up fittings at CarQuest, and it's Saturday, and they're the only ones open, so I wanted to get going on this. So yeah, I'm going to use this fitting here, cut the line, slide that fitting off, slide on our ABS module one on something that looks kind of like that, and then wrestle the thing in. Apparently that's what's going to go down. We've got a new front rear line. Followed the factory routing pretty well to the fuel filter, and then I went lower because I just didn't want to cram it through that little hole and have it rubbing on stuff, and then straight to the ABS unit. I don't want to roll down there because there's a big puddle, but yeah, that's where we're at. So we've got it on a gravity bleed over at the one end there. Doesn't look like anything's coming out anymore. I should probably check the reservoir. Yeah, I can spray some honey goo up in the frame rails and behind where the tank sits there, or up above it, and in the wheel wells here. And then try and wrestle that tank back in the wet, snowy goodness. Should be fun. Alright, I'm getting anxious. I'm gonna try and wrestle the tank back in. See how this goes. Try and get it halfway up. Put the fuel lines on. Support it. Get the straps in place. I guess. We'll see. Maybe the plan will change as it goes. An Astro hack here. If you don't have the stock cap with the tether, you can put your cap in that little holder in the back of the door. A little bit of an Astro fuel hack for you.